Hi, I'm Greg Walcher. When I took over the Colorado Department of Natural Resources a decade or so ago, we decided to take an entirely new approach to environmental issues, beginning with the Endangered Species Act, because people around Colorado are so frustrated in dealing with those issues. And we really approached it with three underlying premises. One, it's the most powerful environmental law ever adopted by Congress. Somebody that you've never even heard of can designate some species you've never even heard of as endangered, and it kicks in an entire body of federal law that seems to supersede and trump virtually everything else. Second, that protection of endangered species is still enormously popular with the public, so there isn't any chance that the whole thing is just going to go away. It's with us for the foreseeable future. But third and most important, the Endangered Species Act is one of the most dismal failures in the history of legislation. And by that I mean that we put lots of things on the endangered list and we take off the list nothing, ever. In fact, the federal government, since the days that the act was adopted 40 years ago, have put over 2,200 species on the endangered list and taken off of it fewer than 1/2%. So we don't recover anything. We use it as a tool to regulate everything. So in Colorado, we decided to actually recover endangered species, literally to raise them in the wild, put them in captivity. We decided to raise them in captivity, put them back in the wild, and recover endangered species so that we could create some of the great conservation success stories in America. And we did that. We recovered fully populations of species from lynx to desert bighorn sheep and black-footed ferrets, the endangered fish in the Colorado River, and a lot of others. And one of the things we found, of course, was that the public was overwhelmingly supportive of that because people care about endangered species. They care about wildlife. But there is a disconnect between our concern about wildlife and doing the right thing. None of us want to have bald eagles extinct. But we also don't want to use those kind of tools not for the environment but against people. And unfortunately, it's kind of what we've evolved into. So we try to convince people around the country, and with some success, that recovering endangered species ought to be the focus, not just protecting the habitat by stopping human behavior. And all over the world, that's what we ought to be doing. When we have a big debate about drilling for oil in the seas north of Alaska and what effect it might have on polar bears, we ought to be recovering polar bears. People can make whatever case they want about whether we should be using fossil fuels, whether or not we should be transferring wealth around the world. Those are legitimate issues on which reasonable people can disagree, but they're not about polar bears and not about endangered species. So if we focus on the species and do the right thing for the environment, the public will be with us. We'll be proud of the good work that we've done, and we'll put the focus back on the environment where it belongs.